Could the Chicago Bears actually consider drafting running back Bijan Robinson in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft? What's going on, guys? I'm back with another Chicago Bears draft discussion video, which I'll be doing until the NFL Draft begins. Again, I'll be live streaming my reaction to days 1 and 2 of the draft on my YouTube channel, so if you guys want to see that, definitely be sure to subscribe. And I'll obviously also be coming out with breakdown videos for each of the Bears picks in the coming days after the NFL Draft, as well as highlight videos too, so stay tuned for a lot of content on this channel regarding the NFL Draft. But today I'll be talking about if the Chicago Bears could actually consider drafting a running back in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. Not just any running back, okay? Bijan Robinson, a generational talent according to many talent evaluators, probably the best running back we have seen in the draft since a Saquon Barkley, who went number 2 overall to the New York Giants. You know, there's been some speculation that the Bears might actually be considering making that move at pick number 9 or in a trade back, which the second option probably would be preferred, but you know, you have to hope that he would be on the board then if you are trading back. But regardless, Daniel Jeremiah, a NFL draft analyst who works for NFL Network, I believe, he actually said to Peter Schrager on a podcast that he said that somebody told me do not sleep on Bijan Robinson with them either way. With them, he's talking about the Chicago Bears. So there's some talk about, you know, who the Bears pick could be at pick number 9. They actually did a mock draft on that podcast. Now, they didn't actually end up selecting Bijan Robinson in that mock draft. They ended up selecting Christian Gonzalez, but Daniel Jeremiah still made it a point of emphasis to say that he has heard about rumblings about the Bears potentially being interested in Bijan Robinson. Now, this is the NFL Draft, so it's a lot of guessing, a lot of smoke screens being thrown around, so you can never really be sure if any news that you're getting, any report that you're getting is actually factual, because it seems like every team is linked to every player at some point in the draft cycle just because of how long the draft cycle actually is. We've been talking about this for months and months on end now, so maybe this is just some smoke at the last second to, you know, give fans something to talk about. And maybe it's not something that's actually based in reality. Okay, the Bears have not actually met with Bijan Robinson on any top 30 visits, but then again, Bijan has only met with 2 teams on top 30 visits during the NFL draft cycle, only the Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think the lack of a top 30 visit doesn't really mean anything because Bijan is that clean of a prospect. He's so good, you know, on the field, off the field, that it seems like teams do not really have to do research into him because he's that level of prospect. If you ask any talent evaluator in this class who the top talent in the class, regardless of positional value, okay, when you throw out positional value of running backs, you know, not mattering as much anymore, when you throw that out, the best pure overall football player in this draft, according to a lot of people, is Bijan Robinson. Now, again, you can make the argument that running backs should not be drafted so high anymore because we've seen across the NFL, you know, teams have success with late round running backs more and more often, you know, so you can argue that for sure that the running back position is not as valuable as it used to be. But again, when you're talking about the best football player in the class, I think it has to be Bijan Robinson. What he showed on tape at Texas playing for them, you know, the last 3 years, he was arguably the best player in the country from a pure talent perspective. Now, Texas didn't really have, you know, the best offensive line last year, so that's, you know, one reason why maybe he didn't win the Heisman last year, but he was a Heisman level player, a guy that could have been the best player in the country because he literally does everything at such a high level. Like, nobody else in this class does their position as good as Bijan Robinson does. He has top end, high end speed. He tested pretty well at the combine, 4.46 in the 40, 1.54 10-yard split. Look at the explosion, fantastic. Okay, so agility, explosion, speed is very, very good. Obviously, he didn't test in the agility drills, but if you throw on his tape, you'll see that there's no question mark whatsoever about his agility. He is one of the most agile running backs in this class too. He can explode laterally very, very well. He can bounce to the outside. He can cut inside. He can explode through the hole and go off for like a 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown run because he does have the top end explosion and speed as well. And if you look at his power and his ability to force missed tackles, he also forced the most missed tackles in the history of the PFF era. Okay, so ever since PFF started tracking stats for college football players, in that time span, he ranks number 1 among any player in one season to force the most missed tackles. He forced 104 missed tackles last year playing at Texas, which you can see on tape. I mean, every other run, he's making somebody miss. He's running through somebody. He's exploding to the outside. He's being patient too, and that's the one thing too with Bijan Robinson. He is so damn patient. He reminds me of like a Le'Veon Bell or maybe even like a LT, who are so smart in terms of setting up the blockers in front of them and being patient enough to let the blocking develop before they actually do make their cut. And when they do make their cut, they usually choose the right lane to cut through because they do have that field vision that is very, very rare. And that's the thing. I mean, he has these gifts that you just simply cannot teach to anybody. He's such a natural runner of the football where he just glides down the field. It seems like he's not even trying that hard to run because he's just that naturally gifted. And he has contact balance, he has power, he has speed, he has agility, he has the ability to catch the ball too out of the backfield. Fantastic hands. In college football, he had 314 receiving yards last year. He had 295 receiving yards the year before that. Now, Texas probably could have targeted him even more often in that offense. You know, obviously, they should have given the ball more to Bijan with how good of a player he actually was for them. But Texas has had so many issues with, play calling, with finishing games. So that could be a reason why, again, Bijan was not considered a Heisman Trophy finalist last year. He definitely could have been, but he just has every single thing you would want out of a player on tape, where he could be considered the best overall football player in this class. Now, the question is, should the Chicago Bears take a swing on that player, and will they take a swing on that player? That's two separate questions. One, if they should do it, and one, if they will do it. I'll answer both of them right now. But if they should do it, answering that question, it's really hard to say for me because I've been anti-drafting running backs early for like a long time now, for the past maybe 4 or 5 years, because I've seen so much data across the league where it just shows you, like, a lot of teams in the league nowadays, they find their running backs in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, and they're completely fine with it. Like last year, the Kansas City Chiefs, they won the Super Bowl with a running back that was drafted in round 7, Isaiah Pacheco. You've seen so many late round running backs in the league have an extraordinary amount of success. Even look at Khalil Herbert with the Chicago Bears. He was a 6th round pick and I believe led the NFL in yards per carry last year. Now, obviously, Khalil Herbert has a lot of issues too to his game. Like, he's not the best pass catcher, he's not the best pass blocker, maybe not the most all-around player, but you saw like a player like that even be very productive for the Chicago Bears. And other teams across the league too, they've been totally okay with not drafting running backs early. But then again, when you have a generational type of talent like a Bijan Robinson, who's very similar to like a Saquon Barkley, guys, carried the Giants offense last year when he was healthy. Should you take a swing on that player? It is really, really tough to say because the Bears just have so many needs all across the roster. Like, we have big needs on the offensive line, the defensive line, and I'm a guy that likes to build through the trenches. So I prefer the approach of, drafting O-line in the first round, drafting D-line in the first round, and figuring out the positional players later on if you can, with the later picks, because I still feel like the game is won through the trenches. But there is still something to be said about, getting a can't miss prospect, a generational elite prospect for a team that needs more guys like that. Like, we don't have high-end talent on this team. So if you want to just go with the safest pick, a guy that probably is not going to bust at all, his bust rate is probably like 5%, maybe 1%, just because of how safe of a prospect he is. Do you want to get this guy, guaranteed to be on this team and just give Justin Fields a fantastic elite weapon that could be the best pure weapon on the football field? And that's how you should be thinking about a player like Bijan. He's not only a running back, he's a fantastic receiving threat too. So if you want to line him up in the slot or out wide, he can probably line up there and still provide Justin Fields with a fantastic down the field option in the passing game too. And as a pass protector, definitely a better pass blocker than both Khalil Herbert and D'Onta Foreman. So a true every down back that's going to be on the football field basically every single snap. And that's a big thing. I mean, if you're getting a guy that could be on the field every single snap, that's going to provide you with fantastic production in year one. He could be rookie of the year next season. Takes so much pressure off of Justin Fields. I mean, how do you defend a backfield of both Bijan Robinson and Justin Fields? Either of them could go off for like a 50-yard touchdown run at any point. That's going to be a very, very hard backfield to actually defend against. It's going to open up the passing attack even more. So there's so many ways you can look at this, where even though it's only a running back, I still think I would be okay with the Bears drafting Bijan, mostly in a trade back though. So I do really prefer, if we do go after Bijan, we are able to trade back maybe to like 16, 17 if he's on the board then, and we do get an extra second round pick to help out the offensive line and the defensive line, then yes, I think the Bears should do it, because he is that level of player. He's probably the best player in the class, and getting him at pick number 12, 14, 15, 16, 17 would be fantastic. I mean, getting DJ Moore and Bijan Robinson in the same offseason, you talk about an embarrassment of riches. That would be very, very good for Justin Fields. Now, hopefully we could still get a decent offensive lineman after that, maybe trade up for one. If you have an extra second round pick, trade up in the back of the first round again to get maybe like a Darnell Wright or Anton Harrison, whoever, to still help out Justin Fields in terms of pass protection even more. So I think that would be my ideal scenario if we do get Bijan. Now, do I think the Chicago Bears would actually do this? Do you think that Ryan Poles would actually do something like this? I'm not really sure. If I had to guess, I'd probably say no, just because I do still feel like Ryan Poles is the type of guy that does want to now build through the trenches in the NFL draft, because he did somewhat neglect the trenches in free agency. Not fully, obviously. He did get some guys like Nate Davis, like, you know, DeMarcus Walker, like Andrew Billings on the D-line. So he still signed some players, but he did not address it nearly enough, as much as I would think, at least. So I still think that O-line and D-line should be the biggest priority probably, but if Ryan Poles, you know, truly does want to go best player available, that player could be Bijan, you know, if he's throwing aside positional value, which I'm not sure if he's going to do that or not. But if I had to give a percentage chance on if Bijan is going to be a Bear right now, I'd probably say like 10%, maybe 15% chance. Maybe even that's too much, because it's not very likely. You know, the betting odds also don't have us as being a favorite for Bijan Robinson, but anything is possible in the NFL draft. And even though I still would prefer, you know, going O-line early, like Darnell Wright, like Pierce Johnson Jr., you know, Broderick Jones maybe, I would still be very, very excited if we do actually end up getting Bijan Robinson. Like, I'd probably buy his jersey the very next day, because he's that exciting of a prospect where we should enjoy getting a player like that, a talent like that on the Chicago Bears if it does actually happen. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Would you want the Chicago Bears to draft Bijan Robinson? What would your reaction be if we actually do end up drafting him? Let me know down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll be back with more videos next week and a live stream on Thursday and Friday. As always, bear down.